I went downstairs, outside. I crept up into the barn. I was so scared to look inside, but I had to.
What did you see, Clarice? What did you see?
Lambs. They were screaming.
They were slaughtering the spring lambs?
They were screaming.
You're listening to The Night Before, a movie podcast. Each episode, we find a unique place in the city and share a drink and our thoughts about the movie we watched the night before. This is Lee, and I am joined, as always, by my husband, Jesse.
Well, we're back with another porch cast.
Now you're gonna have
Porch
to.
podcast.
You're gonna have to re-record your intro
I know.
soon if we keep this up.
I want to. I want to re-record the intro.
Yeah, but we won't.
Oh, we might.
No, because by our next episode, we'll be back out someplace
We'll be
in the
back out.
city. But we
But-
have moved locations. Last episode, we were on the back porch, now we're on the front
back
porch.
patio. Now we're on the front porch.
Yeah.
So that was really the patio cast.
Okay.
This is the porch cast.
All right.
So, yeah, it's a nice night. It's warm, buggy, but nice.
Well, part of the reason why we're not out either, it's been a little rainy.
It's rainy.
So we figured, where last time we had so much to talk about, we're like, we don't have time to go out.
Yeah, we would have been there forever.
Yeah. We have to. But this one, it was kind of rainy, and we're like, we want to get the 1991 episode done.
Sorry, bugs are playing in my face.
It's a little buggy out. It's the buggy hour. You know, some people call it like the golden
Witching
hour.
Oh.
Oh yeah, that hour too. There's like the witching hour, the buggy hour, the golden hour,
It is the golden hour as far as light goes.
the 1 hour photo.
That's not a thing
Oh.
anymore. Anyway, so yeah, we're talking about this is our 91 episode, movies of 1991, and then we're gonna put in our picks for 1992 at
Right.
the end.
So, for anyone who just stumbled upon this episode, this is our second 90s episode like this. We did a 1990 episode
Uh-huh.
where we take the picture of the year, Best Picture, Oscar-winning Best Picture, and then we each bring two other movies that we think will be just as good, if not better, than the Best Picture.
Yeah.
Whether we saw it or we've heard really good things about it,
Or we just saw it and loved it.
or it's like a personal favorite, but we
Yeah.
think it's a contender.
Could be a contender, yeah.
So we did that for 90, and now we're doing 91. Silence of the Lambs was the Best Picture.
Right?
So we watched that last. And then we each brought two.
Movies to the table.
Yeah, I brought My Own Private Idaho, and the other movie I brought,
Boys in the Hood.
BOYZ N THE HOOD, as I consult my list.
Yeah.
BOYZ N THE HOOD. And you brought.
I brought Thelma Louise and
See, it's harder than you
I
think.
know.
You do a mind blank.
And I can even read my card. I brought Thelma Louise and Frankie Johnny.
Frankie and Johnny.
Yeah.
So in a few minutes, we'll just go back and forth, starting at 5 to 1, and we'll share what our list. We haven't shared each other our list.
No. What we thought after watching them again.
Over the course,
For some of it was the first time.
for some of us, it might have been the first time. Which one was your first time? All right, we can go
None
this way.
of them. I've seen them all.
You had seen all of them.
I had seen all of them. But I do have to say, I know I had seen My Private Idaho, but I didn't remember it the way it was.
This was
I remembered it differently.
This was my first viewing of Frankie and Johnny. So
So,
there's
so
that.
before we get into that, shouldn't we say, like, we're drinking, we made old fashions?
Yeah. When we're at home, we don't get into the drinks as much
Yeah,
because
why
we're not highlighting the place.
I mean,
Because
it's kind of fun because our night was fun because we made yummy hot dogs on the
Yeah.
grill.
I know, but it's
We made Vietnamese hot dog and Seattle hot dog, aka Angry Chair.
I know, but we don't normally go into that stuff much because it's more about highlighting the place we're at, not
I
our
know.
kitchen. No one can experience our kitchen, but you could go to
You
one of the
could go
places
get an
we've
old
been to.
fashioned and sit and watch the movies
I guess.
and listen to the podcast.
But no, that's why we don't. When we're doing the home cast, we don't get into that.
Well, I just did. So,
And then
Now-
after we do our 91 rankings, we've each picked 2 1992 movies that we will share. We don't know what each other's picks are. And we'll set the viewing schedule for the next month or so while we watch the 5 92 films, and then we come back for our 92 episode.
and do 1992.
Yeah.
And we're going to do that all the way through the 90s,
Yeah.
basically. We said we were going to do 1 year a month, but it's taking us a little bit longer.
Well, if you want to
So,
watch other things,
Yeah.
it kind of gets in the way. And if you do that, though it seemed like the plan initially, you kind of just get in this like slog where you're only watching a certain type of movie.
We don't want to be slogs.
No, it's a slog.
That's what I said. G with a G.
I know, but you said we don't want to be slogs, but I said we're in a slog.
Oh. Okay. You get in a slog. You
Yeah.
don't be a slog.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Also got to say for the porch cast, we're in rocking chairs. I think it's one rocks a lot. You have to kind of be aware of your rocking.
I enjoy
Or
the
else we're
rocking.
in a,
I'm
like,
in
a
rocking
constant-
chair.
But I think the rocking, you rock when you listen,
Oh, you're,
and then you stop rocking when you're talking, I think.
we'll see. We'll see how it
I don't
works
think
out.
I don't think one can really like rock and talk.
Some people are more talented than others.
No, I'm saying you can, but should you?
We'll see. See how it works out for us.
Okay. It's that like active movement while you're listening, you know, you're kind of rocking back and forth because you're almost like nodding in agreement. But then when you're speaking, you stop so they can focus on your words, not your movements.
Okay.
That's what I'm observing in this moment.
You're controlling the rocking.
As someone listening at home can just see us like constantly rocking back and forth.
It probably doesn't sound like we're rocking.
No, I'm not worried about a sound thing. It's just saying we've never really podcasted much sitting in rocking chairs.
All right, let's move on from that.
All right. So, 91.
91. So here's how we start.
The
The bottom.
Yeah, we started at the bottom, but the best picture was Silence of the Lambs
Of that year.
of that year.
So we had to watch
it's
that.
swept. We don't get usually in the
Yeah.
old days, in the early days, you brought your notes.
Yeah.
You did the research. You told us stuff about movies.
No, I know it swept.
I know I haven't done much research, but we know
I love Jodie Foster. I was a huge fan of Jodie Foster.
It
back
swept
in
the Oscars.
Her heyday.
not only Jodie Foster, but Anthony Hopkins. It's kind of
Yeah.
like a role that I don't want to say defined his career or her career,
It was
but
big for both
they're
of them.
forever attached to those two characters,
Of course.
right?
Yeah.
Based on like a Thomas Harris novel, whole series of novels. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jonathan Demme directed. It's just like
I mean, sometimes I do research if something intrigues me, but
no, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
But I'm saying sometimes it's like really setting the stage because we didn't do this. We did a little bit with Dances with Wolves, which was the best picture
that
from
was good.
1990, which also turned out to be out of our 5.
best picture.
We thought, okay, still the best one.
It still held up.
Out of the we're not being so bold as saying it's the best film that came out from 1990 because we didn't see all of them.
Of course not.
But out of the 5, you can only pick amongst the contenders you got. And out of those 5, all right.
It was the best one.
Right.
For sure.
And so what we're trying to decide is we put 4 more contenders next to Silence of the Lambs.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to see personally where each of us feel they stack up. But I'm going to say, and it might not be the same conversation when we get to 1992.
Okay.
But for the most part, out of our 5, these are all our 91 films that we brought. These are bookshelf worthy. These are like most of these films. You could be like, these are still in the conversation today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it makes it a little tough.
It does.
I kind of had, and we're about to get into it, I kind of had my 5th choice.
Mm-hmm.
And then, depending on my mood at the moment, any of the other 4 could have been number 1.
I struggled with my number 1. I went back and forth on it. But I knew my number 5. I knew my number 4. And I knew my number 3. I only struggled on my number 1 and number 2.
I'm going to make a prediction that maybe our number 5 and 4 are the same.
Maybe
But
not in that order.
But, yeah, maybe not. I can see which way you went. But they might be interchangeable.
All right, well,
But
let's
I
go.
really feel
You start.
my 1 through 4 could, any of them could have been number 1.
Okay.
If I thought about it in a certain direction.
I disagree with that, but
No, I'm saying for me.
for you, okay.
As I said shortly before this podcast, when we were secretly making our notes, I said, "Oh, here's how you solve it." I stopped thinking about it, and I'm just going to go with the heart.
Go with the heart.
Pick from the heart.
Pick from the heart. That's what I decided to do as well.
Yeah. So that's how I got number 1, and then the rest fell into place easy.
I didn't try to let old hang-ups.
Well, old
Stay with me.
hang-ups, critical acclaim, cultural significance.
Right.
I mean, because out of my top 4, you could attach something culturally significant to 4 of the 5 on our list.
I agree.
And that could be the sole reason why it's number 1.
I agree. I mean, the reason why a movie is number 1 in the time has to do with cultural significance.
All right,
as we know.
So here's what we'll do. Sometimes it's not the neatest order. We'll start at the bottom. I'll go first. But if my number 5 is not your number, like we always stop to talk about it until it's higher on the list.
Yeah.
Right. So if my number 5 is not your number 5, we'll go to yours because you'll be like, oh, that's higher up on my list, so we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah.
So we're not talking about the same movie. We're not talking about a movie twice.
Right, of course.
I'm just saying, like, that's why we'll talk about this more later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so we're using it's kind of become tradition now. I know we've done it twice. Our coasters, our drink coasters from the first 1990 episode.
Mm-hmm.
Our notes are on that. So my number 5 out of our choices was Frankie and Johnny.
I knew that was your number 5. That's higher up on my list.
I figured it would be.
So are we going to talk about my number 5?
Yeah, Frankie and Johnny. It's the Al Pacino.
Yeah.
And Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Movie.
Yeah.
So what's your number 5?
My number 5 is My Own Private Idaho.
I figured it would be your number 5.
I just remember it being better.
But that's higher up on my list.
Right.
But we can talk about it now because My Own Private Idaho is my number 4.
I figured. And Frankie and Johnny's my number 4.
I figured they would go interchangeable.
You know what?
So,
Feels good. Yeah, it does.
do my Own Private Idaho.
When I left home, the maid asked me where I was off to. I said, wherever, whatever. Have a nice day. You had a maid? Yeah. If I had a normal family and a good upbringing, then I would have been a well-adjusted person. Depends on what you call normal. Yeah, it does. Well, you know, normal, like a mom and a dad and a dog and shit like that. Normal. So you didn't have a normal dog? No, I didn't have a dog. You didn't have a normal dad? Didn't have a dog or a normal dad anyway, yeah. That's all right. I don't feel sorry for myself. I mean, I feel like I'm, you know, well adjusted. What's a normal dad? I don't know.
So I just didn't feel as connected to the movie. I think River Phoenix was a big deal back then, and that was one of the reasons the movie was a big deal. But I just did not enjoy it as much. I thought a lot of it was kind of boring and insignificant.
No respect for the dad.
No.
No, I'm joking. No.
I have respect for River Phoenix, but I think his time obviously has passed, and I think after Stand By Me or whatever, and you know his other things, I think it was just not as. I think everybody saw it because he was in it, or a lot of people saw it.
Well, River, yeah. Well, Keanu Reeves is in it as well.
Yeah.
Gus Van Sant directed it.
Mm-hmm. I just didn't like it as much.
It was kind of a big
bored with
deal because Keanu Reeves is in it as well, but it's also a more serious role for him. We're not talking Bill and Ted anymore,
Right,
and this is
yeah.
pre-Matrix.
Yeah.
And now even Keanu Reeves is in this kind of like different realm of actor, partly because of how he is personally, and then just sort of the way he's kind of done his career. But I think River Phoenix, and a lot of this is because he died early, he has always kind of been immortalized as like a special actor. And to credit, every River Phoenix performance one has ever seen, the guy is like dialed in.
Yeah.
I mean, I think River Phoenix's performances, or just the seriousness he took, and it could have been his,
his roles,
his just lifestyle that kind of bleeding into it as well. But he was intense.
Yeah.
Even the scene in My Own Private Idaho when which is a little reminiscent of the Stand By Me scene, but when he's sitting at the fire with Keanu Reeves, and he's kind of talking about his feelings. And he kind of opens up to Keanu Reeves, professes his love for him, and is very vulnerable. According to all sources, that was all River Phoenix. Like, he wasn't even reading the script. He said...
And that was a big leap to do something like that back then.
Yeah, but even just on, like, the actor's craft, he said, like, I just want to do this scene. And he did it.
Yeah.
Like, he thought about it, acted it,
I mean, I liked
and did it.
The subject matter and what the movie said, but I wasn't as dialed into the movie. It bored me a bit. Like, it wasn't as interesting to me as I remember it being.
See, yeah. And for me, thinking in like 91, it was a movie. I mean, obviously I didn't see it in 91, but I saw it a few years after, in the 90s, mid-90s. And I really, watching it could have been some nostalgia, but some of it was just like a longing for, they don't, it's not even that phrase of like, they don't make movies like this anymore, because they don't. But it was almost, you could tell it was the changing of an era in the early 90s, right? With music, with culture, with art, with writing, with expression, with sexuality. Like, it was this like breaking over. And My Own Private Idaho, it does drag in places, but I think it's supposed to. And so that's what I really felt, just the look and feel of it. I really felt really comforted watching it. And that was kind of the pieces I thought really excelled at. And that's when I was like, oh yeah, this was like, at one point, this was like, this is number 1, number 2 contender.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Only because, like I said,
I can respect
it's
that.
a style of movie
That you like.
that not only I like, and again, kind of what we talked about, a whole the Vengeance podcast,
Mm-hmm.
which is trying to say some things about the world.
Mm-hmm.
My Own Private Idaho is also trying to say things about the state of the world through one character, River Phoenix, but it shows you so much, it doesn't tell you. Like,
Right, yeah.
they don't get into these long monologues about the state of the world.
Yeah.
And so, and I think it's a message about trying to find your family and your belonging, though it doesn't always have to be blood.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a journey. Like River
Yeah.
Phoenix, it's all about a journey of finding
Finding who he is, his
who he is,
family,
who
who
his
he
connection
belongs
is.
to.
What, is it friends? Is it his mother? Is it his father? Like,
It's
he's
like
trying
the
to find
whole,
these people.
like sex trafficking kind of like theme in there too.
There is.
It's like so relevant nowadays, or that's what we call it now. I don't even think it was called that.
And then
back
there's the
then.
idea of Keanu Reeves, the sort of like the rich tourist who shuns away all his wealth and privilege, not because he really wants to learn more about himself,
choosing to be on the streets and whatnot.
and because he wants to truly connect who he is or break free of the confines of his shallow world. Some of it's out of resentment for his father. Some of it's just to dabble. And
Rebel.
yeah, and but with always the intention of returning once his trust fund gets eligible for his trust. He's like, then I'll
Well,
go back.
he has nothing to lose by doing that.
I'll
He
go back.
had something waiting for him.
Yeah, it was fun.
He wasn't looking for,
Yeah.
he was just,
Where River Phoenix, and that's like the neat little scene even later near the end, right? Where there's like River Phoenix and Keanu Reeves, they're like separated by the graveyard, and they're in the two quote different their
Worlds.
families and
Yeah.
things. But I think the part that really hurt it, why it knocked all the way down to number 4, is there is a like Shakespearean segment where it's like
that annoyed me.
King Richard it's like a modernized of King Richard the Third or Henry the whatever, right? It's one of Shakespeare's things.
Yeah.
And that, I think, distracts and hurts the film because that you do get lulled, and it's at the beginning. It's in the first act, and it loses you.
Yeah, that lost me. Like,
Once
I
they
just,
leave,
it wasn't like believable. Like,
once
it
they
just,
leave that realm,
yeah,
that sort of like that homeless society that they're amongst. Once they leave that and they stop talking, and again, it was done on purpose to speak in like iambic pentameter
Yeah.
and all this stuff. Once they leave that and the film goes another direction when he's on the search for his mother, that's when I think the film really picks up.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, that kind of lost me. I don't know. I just didn't like it as much. I think that's the neat thing about doing the old films. Like when you go back and watch them, is that some movies that you were like so into or excited about, sometimes just 20, 30 years later, don't have the same effect on you. But that's the whole point. Like, does it or doesn't it?
No, it
Does
was meant for
still
that
hold
era,
up?
like,
Does it not?
That like, yeah, that's a movie that
That had its day. Yeah.
And it
I mean, it still does. For some
didn't
people,
exist
but-
in a,
Can I ask you something?
it was like it was challenging cinema.
Yeah. Yeah. But so it was my number 5, your number 4.
And so Frank and Johnny, that you
Frankie
liked
and
a little bit
Johnny
better.
is my
Tell me
number
that later.
4.
Did you know Helen? I mean, it looked like you were crying today,
Death is very sad.
but you didn't even know her.
Well, you don't have to know someone to feel sad for them. It's called empathy.
Yeah. Empathy, yeah.
Empathy. The sympathetic vibrations of two human beings.
No, yeah, I know what empathy
No,
means.
you don't know what it means. That's okay. I didn't know what it means either until I looked it up. See, every day when I'm shaving, I look up a new word. Just a little piece of turkey, that's all.
How can you have empathy with someone you've never met?
Well, I didn't have to meet AC. I just looked at her picture on the casket, and I knew. I knew she lived alone. I knew she had these dreams that weren't quite enough to keep her heart beating. So she kept it going by putting a bottle of 4 Roses under her pillow every night. Nobody knew about.
Vodka. You know, you should get yourself a crystal ball and one of those turbans. You'd make a lot more money than you do here.
No, I'm no fortune teller. I just tell it the way I see it. She had that look, you know. My mother had that look her whole life while she was alive. Disappointed.
I need a blood sausage and hash browns.
Netta, what are you doing? She was just asking me out.
I am not asking you out.
I liked it because it just reminded me of those, like, I mean, not like romantic comedies like they do now, or like comedy/drama, but I just liked the, like, romantic nature of it, even though it was, like, somewhat cringy and a little bit over the top. Like, he's over the top.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny.
Al Pacino.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. But that was him. I thought he was, like, so good back then, and the love story and the kind of, like, innocence of it and stuff I really liked.
But again, we joked about it.
And I love Michelle Pfeiffer. Like, I want more of Michelle Pfeiffer. I feel like I've always really liked her and everything she's in.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's, like, the best movie ever, but I definitely enjoyed rewatching it. Some of it I was like, ooh, this is a little cheesier, over the top than I remember it being. But I still enjoyed watching it again, and I appreciated why I liked it before.
Yeah, it's another one of these, like, I mean, it's also kind of...
And the way it's filmed, it's kind of, like, in that...
Well, it looks very gritty.
It film,
feels,
and I like that.
One of my takeaways was, even though it came out in 91, which means it was probably filmed in 1990 or 89.
It feels like it was filmed, like, in the 70s.
It feels like it was filmed in, like, 1979.
It does.
And came out in 1981.
And maybe that's something I like about it. I don't know.
And again, this was also older New York. Well, even back then, New York hadn't gone through its big hipster transformation that it is now. So even thinking back to the late 80s, early 90s, it was more reflective. Well, that's just kind of how
like,
New York
the
was.
Diner vibe in it, like how, you know.
You know, diner vibe, a man 20 years older than the woman who's in her early, mid-20s, you know. 45-year-old man going after a 25-year-old girl. You know, those kind of classic comedy tropes.
Well, yeah, wasn't that uncommon back then.
No, I thought it was a lot better than I anticipated. It does sort of have, like you said, yeah, it is the sort of more traditional rom-com, right? It's the older male, the younger woman, the rough and tough guy, right? He's out of jail. He's the new chef at
trying to make his way, redeem himself, find his path, his life.
At her diner. She's a waitress.
He falls in love with her.
She's struggling.
Like, it's very vulnerable
on her own.
love.
She has a gay friend played by Nathan Lane, which is a good little part. And again, that sort of trope model of rom-com has kind of continued even to this day.
It is. It's kind of reminiscent of, what is it, with the Molly Ringwald with the gay friend, 16 Candles, maybe?
Maybe, okay, yeah.
Maybe that's it?
Sure.
Yeah, has that same, you see that, like, that's a weird thing, I feel like.
So I thought it was good. I thought it was also one of those, sometimes it had those, like, Frank and Lola vibes, which we talked about in our last podcast, too, where it's just like a couple that has its issues, and maybe you really shouldn't be together.
Right.
But
this was sweeter than Frank and Lola.
It did. No, this definitely had a sweeter vibe, but, like, yeah, it does go to some places. I thought it was all right.
Yeah, no, like I think I liked it a lot more back then than
This
I
was
liked
a
it now.
good-
But I definitely enjoyed the watch more than I enjoyed Private Idaho.
I always like a little this is like a Saturday morning comfort movie.
Comfort movie.
You just put it on, Frankie and Johnny.
Kind of like You've Got Mail or something like. It's like a
Well,
Meg Ryan.
Yeah, but I would put this higher than You Got
Oh
Mail.
yeah, higher than that. But that's the feel. That
Those
they're
are like
just
second.
like,
This I appreciate the grittiness of it.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on to number 3.
Yeah, my number 3.
What's your number 3?
All right, here's where it gets
Here's where it gets iffy.
it gets dangerous. Again, 1 through 4 could have been number 1 at any point,
Okay.
but number 3.
You feel like you should justify it, I think.
Well, 'cause I know this is higher on your list. Thelma Louise.
Ah, stab me in the heart. Okay,
So
it's higher on my list.
Of course it is. So what's your number 3?
I can't even read my card. I don't know why I wrote them on here. I know what my number 3 is, though.
well.
My number 3 is Silence of the Lambs.
Whew. That's higher on my list.
Okay.
But we'll talk about it now because it's my number 2.
What does he do, this man you seek?
He kills women.
No, that is incidental. What is the first and principal thing he does? What needs does he serve by killing?
Anger. Social acceptance and sexual frustrations.
No, he covets. That is his nature. And how do we begin to covet, Clarice? Do we seek out things to covet? Make an effort to answer now.
No. We just...
Now, we begin by coveting what we see every day. Don't you feel eyes moving over your body, Clarice? And don't your eyes seek out the things you want?
Yeah, Silence of the Lambs was my number 3 because just out of, I mean, like my top 3 could have, any of them could have been number 1.
I guess. Oh, no, you're
as well.
justifying.
But Silence of the Lambs is not one of my favorite genres of movie. Like yeah. So that
It's an
puts
intense
it
thriller.
a notch down for me. However, I love Jodie Foster. I think she's phenomenal in it. Anthony Hopkins is great in it. I love the story. I mean, it's
You're
you
a
know,
big fan of women being kidnapped and
I am not a big
skin.
fan of that. It's intense. It's
your favorite genre.
upsetting.
No, of course.
Especially the young girl that actually gets saved at the end. That's so intense and upsetting to me. Her being down in that hole.
in that well,
and,
yeah.
So it's only number 3 to me because I enjoyed the other 2 so much more
so much more.
watching it
Yeah,
than
so
that.
Silence of the Lambs, it has like a hit song on the radio, right? It has the stigma of just being overplayed.
Right.
So Silence of the Lambs, you don't want it to be number 1 because all the Anthony Hopkins lines, and you still hear the lamb screaming, Clarice, right? Clarice,
Yeah.
I love your dress. Like all the things he says, right?
Right.
So so that's overplayed.
All the memes, all the things
memes,
that
the
they've
jokes.
done,
It puts the lotion on. It puts the lotion on the skin. So it's.
I don't think that's why it wasn't my number 1.
No, but I'm saying even with that, maybe that's not your reason, but I think even with that going in, it was also the one we were the most hesitant to like. Okay, we got to eventually watch Silence of the Lambs. Why? Because we've heard this song over and over. We know the movie.
Yeah.
You might not know it as well as I do, but
No,
I know it.
I
know
remember.
it beat
Once
for.
I watched it again, I remember it.
I know it beat for beat.
Yeah, I don't know if I know it beat for beat, but there was nothing like, oh, I forgot this was in the movie.
The only thing I ever forgot was in the movie and it's the weakest part of the movie, are the flashbacks to when she was a little girl. I always forget
Oh.
that's in the movie.
Yeah.
That it cuts to her to being a young girl.
I what did take me by surprise is I'm like, did they really throw this like young FBI agent in training into this situation. I'm like, this is
Well,
a little
it's based on
weird.
the novel, but I think it snowballs, right? Because she was simply just there initially as an enticement for Hannibal Lecter, as someone he might talk to.
But then they're like,
But you're right,
who
at some
killed young women are dangling this young woman out in front of him. That
Yeah.
is irresponsible as far as like.
But again, yeah, and I think that's one of the things we talk about. That's why these top 4 are all important films. Even Silence of the Lambs, though it's not outwardly in your face like, say, a Thelma and Louise about like
Women empowerment or
yeah,
whatever.
woman empowerment, like that is. This one, Silence of the Lambs, is based. It's sort of set in a realistic context. Like she's in an all-male world.
Yeah.
Like, and the movie does it so great without ever. Again, that's why I harped on Vengeance so much. Silence of the Lambs, the very next movie we watched after Vengeance, Jonathan Demme, the director, does it masterfully, right? Like, she's in this all-male world. When she goes to her first autopsy scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they take that body out of the river, she's surrounded in a room full of all
men.
all males,
Uh-huh.
right? And she is kind of forced to speak up and say, hey, we got this, leave. And then even then, the coroner or whoever, they're like, are we sure you want to show her this body? There's a woman present.
Right.
Right? But then she even swings around later and confronts the FBI guy about it, like in the car. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, hey, and he's like, well, it's good old boy, West Virginia good old boys. Like, what do you expect?
Right.
And so she's always there. But then even that, it's, though Hannibal Lecter, Anthony Hopkins' character, respects her, and they're on this sort of like, they treat each other with respect. She treats him respectfully, even though he is the monster he is. He returns her with respect. He kind of toys with her, but even then, he's always like staring down. Like even though the camera's at her, right? He's always like his gaze is always downward, the way the camera's angled. So there's so many like close-up shots of everyone's face, but it's that like gaze, which again, right? What do all the male? This is a movie about like coveting, right? 'Cause he says, "What does Buffalo Bill want? He covets." Right. And so this whole movie is about a woman under all these men's watchful gaze, right?
Yeah.
Some of it's sexual, some of it's demeaning, and it's her just asserting herself through the whole thing without it ever being preachy or a monologue to tell you about it.
Yeah.
It shows you. And I think that was one thing, like, Silence of the Lambs, like, even to this viewing, kept it at, like, a number 2 for that. And I still think that last act, when she gets to the house, and we know she's in Buffalo Bill's house, and she doesn't quite get it until a few minutes after us, the viewer, and then just the breathing,
that was one of the best parts of the movie.
I think it's still one of the best.
Definitely.
It's still one of the most tense
when
scenes.
she like goes to his house, and then you can just even sense the moment she realizes she's in Buffalo Bill's house. Like,
yeah.
She's like, I mean, you can like just her acting that, her like just little twitches of her eyes and breathing.
Her
and
breathing,
stuff
and even him,
so good.
the Buffalo Bill is just sort of like him knowing he's kind of been caught, and now he has to work his way out of it.
Yeah.
All of that, even though I've seen it multiple times, I still think it's one of the most tense things
really good.
ever.
That was
and
really
because
good.
of that, again, filmmaking, as like I think out of all the 5 we saw, that was the best made film, like as an artistic vision of
Definitely
pointing a camera, directing, using film to tell your story. That's why I kept Silence of the Lambs at number 2.
Yeah. For me, it was 3, but
Still bumped it down.
still bumped it down.
All right, so
Because my number 2 was Thelma and Louise.
okay, wow, look what we did there.
So we have the same number 1.
We said the same number 1, so we're pretty close again.
Yeah. So
Wow.
so number 2 is Thelma and Louise for me.
Okay.
So now we can talk about Thelma and Louise.
And I'm a little shocked it's not. I thought it'd be your number 1.
No, I
Gina
mean, I thought it
Davis,
would be
Susan
too.
Sarandon.
You're not gonna give up on me, are you? What do you mean? You're not gonna make a deal with that guy? I mean, I just wanna know.
Thelma, I'm not making any deals.
I mean, I'd understand if you were thinking about it. In a way, you got something to go back for. Jimmy and all.
Jimmy's not an option.
But, I don't know, you know, something's like crossed over in me, and I can't go back. I mean, I just couldn't live.
I know. I know what you mean. Anyway, don't want to end up on the damn Geraldo show.
Yeah.
So I love Thelma and Louise. I still love Thelma and Louise. I love the acting in it. I love the message. I love that there's humor, but there's drama, but it's heartfelt. It has like all the feels, you know? And just the feeling of when she is raped or whatever by the man in the parking lot. That's just a very like intense scene. I feel like and then just their message of them just escaping their lives and feeling like there's really no escape, you know, like they're escaping their lives. However, there's no escape because as they go on this journey to escape their lives, they're faced with the same kind of treatment and abuse that they've faced in their relationships and marriages and whatever lives. So I feel like, especially for 1991, that it was a breakthrough movie. I feel like for women in general, and the way they went about it, although there was very, very serious moments in the movie, just it being a little, you know, it's kind of that feel-good girls movie, but it's also like lighthearted, but also very serious. So I feel like it had all the elements of a really good movie.
Yeah, no, it did. I mean, it's...
And Susan Sarandon, she's awesome.
Gina
Davis was great. Brad Pitt, whatever, like, I don't know. He's aggravating in that movie. I mean, he's good, you know, the good-looking. That was a breakthrough role for him.
Yeah, but that was kind of his purpose in the film, right?
To be a hot guy,
He's the distractor.
Yeah.
Because he ultimately robs them as well. It's yet another sort of male has taken advantage of them. Yeah.
Another male is taking advantage of them when they're just thinking, you know, somebody just has to be genuine.
Yeah.
As far as men that they encounter. But so I still like couldn't say like, oh, I enjoyed watching Silence of the Lambs. Yes, I appreciate Silence of the Lambs and the intense moments and the filmmaking and all of that. But if I want to sit down and watch a movie, I'm gonna watch Thelma and Louise.
No, I really liked it. I mean, I had seen it I think one time prior, and it wasn't one of the, you know, I appreciated it then, but I never thought about it much to watch again.
Right.
So I really enjoyed it, and I really like it. And obviously, it made it to my number 3.
Number 3. It's pretty good.
It just edged out My Own Private Idaho.
Yeah, there you go.
With My Own Private Idaho, didn't have that whole Shakespearean thing. They would have flopped, but no, I like I said, I think it's really good for all the same reasons you did, and it was. I even had a buddy who I talked to recently, my friend Derek, and he was like, "You know, what I've been listening to a lot, bro. I'm watching a lot, Thelma and Louise." And I was like, "Wow, no, I've actually just watched it as well." So yeah, so I thought it was really, really good, and I think Gina Davis is somebody I think who, you know, is the standout in that film. Because she's the one who, I mean, I don't know. I think that's the beauty of it. They both have their moments of enlightenment, and like, 'cause at first you're like, okay, Gina Davis's character she's the one that's sort of stuck in this marriage. She can't really she doesn't have her own voice, right? I had asked permission to go. He's probably going to say no, so I'm just going to go. Right? So and it's Susan Sarandon who's the one who's like, oh, the more free spirit.
Right.
But they throughout the movie, they keep swapping between who's the more naive one and sheltered or trapped one, and then who's the more free spirit. And so they push each other throughout the whole movie, which I thought was good. You don't have that one dynamic where it's the one free spirit, the one reserved person.
I think they both show vulnerability, but both show that they need each other for certain reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're the one that's kind of pushing each other out of their comfort zone or coming to each other's aid because of the other's actions or the other's situation. And then that ultimately what leads. And then again, it's an iconic ending. It leads them. And again, it's the only appropriate ending, which I always appreciate movies that say like, hey, this ain't going to work out.
Yeah.
Right?
What are they going to do? Just go back to their lives?
Yeah, because even though My Own Private Idaho ends ambiguously, which is still part of it, there's like a slimmer of hope that was... Because My Own Private Idaho ends with River Phoenix asleep on the side of the road. And then somebody picks him up.
Right.
And it's a similar car, whatever, that we know his dad has. So is it his dad who's come to pick him up? Or is it some other stranger and he's back in the world? So there's that little bit of ambiguousness, but if you want a hopeful ending, you can say, okay, it's hopeful. He's found what he's been searching for.
Thelma Louise does not have an ambiguous ending.
No, and that's what I mean, but I like it. But like you said, there's no... It sets this thing. Doesn't end in arrest and the being arrested, or it doesn't end in them just going back to their life and whatever. It's just like, all right, you've committed to this.
Just like no regrets. No regrets.
There's no turning back.
Yeah.
So that was good.
What's up? What's up?
Yeah, unlike Silence of the Lambs.
The same.
Yeah.
Yo, cuz. I know why you got the call last night. Shouldn't have been there in the first place. You don't want that shit to come back to haunt you. I ain't been up this early in a long time. Turned on the TV this morning. Had this shit on about living in a violent world. Showed all these foreign places foreigners living on. Started thinking, man. Either they don't know, don't show, or don't care about what's going on in the hood. They had all this foreign shit. They ain't have shit on my brother, man. I ain't got no brother.
Good. Yeah, I have to say, out of the 5 movies we watched, I was like, as soon as we rewatched BOYZ N THE HOOD, which I had seen.
Yeah, me too.
But I didn't remember a lot of it. I was like, this movie is so good. As soon as I got done, I'm like, this movie really... I know Silence of the Lambs is amazing for other reasons, but this is the movie that should have won the Academy Award. I do feel like
Well, the Academy obviously wasn't at that kind of place at that time.
They weren't. It was before its time, for sure. And I just thought BOYZ N THE HOOD was phenomenal.
No, it was really
such a
good.
good movie.
I mean, you're a sucker for a good Cuba Gooding Jr. movie.
Well, not necessarily. I don't really love him in general.
It's a joke. No, it's...
I just think all of the themes and it was very real and heart. It just pulled at your
Well,
heart.
it played it straight, which I thought was really good. As again, you only remember some of the highlights, right? You remember some of the more violent scenes or the touching scenes where someone gets shot or someone's angry, or you remember those more like pivotal scenes,
right?
You remember Ice Cube, you remember Cuba. You remember kind of Cuba's outfits or them making fun of the way he dressed versus everybody else. Like, those are the things you kind of remember. Because I did not remember.
That father-son relationship between,
Lawrence Fishburne, the father. He plays such a great thing. But
so good in that movie, Lawrence Fishburne.
He's like working he's working really hard as a single dad. But his son is with him because even though his mom, Cuba's mom, has kind of worked her way out of the bad neighborhoods.
She still doesn't want him back.
She's like, hey, he needs to be with his father right now. But his father lives not in a terrible neighborhood, but not the best either. But he's busy work because his dad takes him. Well, I'll show you the bad neighborhoods. They go to the bad neighborhoods.
Yeah.
In Compton. So that's what I liked about it too. It wasn't like, oh, it's on the streets of Compton. It's these kids, teenagers, late high school, early 20s.
Some of them just living their life and not really trying to get into trouble, but they're just in the midst. It's a cycle.
Yeah. And
like
that's
they're
kind of
in the midst.
And that's sort of Cuba's character. He's
pulled
the guy
into the cycle of.
He's on the fringe of it all. And that's where the frustration of his father, like, oh, you want to be a man, you want to do this, you think killing vengeance is the way to go. See where it gets you, right? And like I said, and the pressures to conform in relationships. There's the girl he really wants, but Cuba feels like he has to act like he's sexually experienced even to his dad.
Right. He lies about it
to feel all that. Yeah. But I just thought, I thought it was just.
There's so much good about that movie. Like, I loved, like, every scene of that movie I loved. And it was not boring to me. It keeps you captivated. It keeps you in. You care about the characters. I think that's for me in a movie. If I, like, in the movie and really care about the characters, that's a movie that's top of my
the one
list.
character really trying to get the scholarship.
Yeah.
As his sort of way out, and the and the mom sort of struggled.
Yes.
Anxiety about him getting that scholarship. No, I'd forgotten, or maybe I just never really paid much attention to see that part, that the first 30, 45 minutes is just them as little kids.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, like I said, what did I forget about Silence of the Lambs was the flashbacks of Jodie Foster as a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
I had forgotten that, wow, the first 30 minutes plus.
They're little. Ice Cube, Cuba Gooding Jr., none of them are in the film. Yeah.
Until, that 40, 45-minute mark.
I think that's what shows you, like, it's about your upbringing. It's about how you're raised. It's about where you're raised. It's about.
Well, it's a movie that took it's a movie that took its time to tell its story.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot.
And again, sort of like Frankie
Such
and
a great story.
Johnny, it felt. And again, it was also some of it was like film technique and the way we made movies, and everything didn't have to be MTV sized. And even though that's kind of now moved on to a new thing, but it was pre-90s where everything kind of felt like it could have been on MTV or like MTV Cribs. You know what I mean? That that vibe. This felt something more like mid 80s, late 80s. Because it almost felt, and maybe that was some of the limitations of the time to get a film like this made. It felt a bit, I don't want to say generic, but a little more pedestrian and it just didn't feel flashy. But I thought that worked to its advantage. It almost felt,
for sure.
Yeah, it felt authentic in that regard too. So
it felt very authentic.
That's what I liked about it. The Boys in the Hood was
it was great. Really good. One of the greats. One of the greats.
We have reassigned the Oscar
We have reassigned the Oscar for 1991 to Boys
To
in
that.
the Hood
Okay.
in Night Before podcast awards show.
So, well, before we now, all we have left, we have to pick our 92 picks. But we'll refresh your list. So read over your 5 to 1 again.
Okay, so starting at 5, I had My Own Private Idaho. Number 4, Frankie and Johnny. Number 3, Silence of the Lambs. Number 2, Thelma and Louise. Number 1, Boys in the Hood.
All right. And mine was number 5, Frankie and Johnny. Number 4, My Own Private Idaho. Number 3, Thelma and Louise. Number 2, Silence of the Lambs. And number 1, Boys in the Hood.
This is 2 for 2. We've agreed on number 1.
All right.
There you go.
So we'll see. All right, we'll pause.
Pause.
And then we'll share our 92
I think I smeared my
picks
list, but
while we hear a little clip from the 92 Oscar pick, Unforgiven. No, maybe we'll cut to a Boys in the Hood clip right now.
definitely Boys in the Hood
Cue
Club.
it. Make sure. Wouldn't want to
All right,
miss the
we're
second
back.
half.
We're
Got
back.
our old fashions refilled.
We got, sorry, Old Fashioned number 2.
Seems like I realized halfway through our discussion of the 1991 films,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the bugs went to bed.
Yeah, see, it's just that
The bug
that,
hour.
That hour.
The buggy hour. The
Witchy
buggy hour.
Right before
The golden buggy witchy hour.
right before it gets dark.
Yeah.
The bugs like sing a song all together in chorus.
They're doing something. All right, so
It's like maybe it's like their mating time or something. I don't know. Feels like it.
I mean, we don't. Luckily, this isn't the bug cast, so we don't know why bugs make the noises they make. Yeah, so we got to pick some. We got to set our next.
1992.
Our 92. So the film of the year, the best picture, was the Clint Eastwood Western
Unforgiven.
Unforgiven, which I might have seen, but just because it might have been on at some point around that era, but I have no recollection of seeing
I was
Unforgiven.
16 years old in 1992.
Okay. So were you like, hey, I got to see this new Clint Eastwood directed
I don't think
and
I
starring
ever saw Unforgiven.
Western.
No.
All right, so we're in for a treat.
But I think it's important of the age you were considering the movies you might have seen.
Of course,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Mhm.
Like if you're 25 or 6, you're not going to have seen. Not that you have to see these movies the year they come out.
No.
But
Heck, we said you didn't even have to have seen the movie. We just feel like
true.
it could be better than the
I
best
have
picture.
one on there. Well,
Same.
get back. That maybe I haven't seen,
Mm.
but I think maybe should be on it, but I don't think I'm going to pick
I
it.
appreciate your dedication to David
I think
Lynch.
you're going to pick it anyways. No, it's not David. It's not David Lynch.
I appreciate you're like, hey, it's David Lynch. It's going to be good. I need to put it on my list.
Anywho.
No, so that's the thing. I was looking at this. We pick our movies. We just go to like IMDb and movies released in 1992.
Yeah.
And
I went through the first 150.
I went through the first 100. Yeah, I did 150 as well.
Yeah, okay.
And there was a movie late on the list.
There was a lot of movies I liked, but it wasn't as...
It's not like a 91.
It's not... That year wasn't the best movie year, I don't feel.
For lasting movies. There's a couple memorable ones.
Definitely some memorable ones, but, like, it wasn't... I had 4 or 5 written down, but it wasn't hard to kind of decipher.
I had trouble. All right, so what we'll do is Unforgiven's happening. We got to watch it.
Unforgiven.
We'll see if that's best picture.
Have you seen it? Did
No,
you
I just
say?
said I don't think I've ever
Oh,
seen it.
sorry. I missed that.
One of us might have been rocking. That's why. Sorry. I'm going to get back to not rocking. I've been rocking too. It's so, you want to just rock.
It's easy to rock. It's comforting. It's
I
nice to
feel
rock
like
in the rocking chair.
You've introduced me to that podcaster, comedian Rick Glassman.
Yeah, and you love him.
I do, but I feel I identify not. The reason I love the podcast is not his interview style. Heck, some of it's even a bit grating. I don't really kind of like his way he interviews people.
He's aggressive.
it's all his eccentric stuff where, like,
Eccentricities.
yeah, where he gets onto people if
He's AST.
he gets onto people if their mic is not in the right
So
spot.
you feel you relate to
Well,
that.
I'm constantly pointing at you, like, please, you get your mic.
I know. You have this controlling
You're like,
nature.
no, because like him, he knows that if they're not talking on mic,
it's not going to be good.
it's harder to mix and figure all that stuff
I
out.
get it. I know.
And then
I
even like
forgive
with
you.
the rocking chair, because he's always like, well, what are you doing? Why are you moving? Stay in that spot. But anyway, Unforgiven.
Unforgiven.
So
Clint
we each
Eastwood.
picked two more.
Western.
We each picked two more movies.
I
And
hate westerns.
I'm not excited to ever watch westerns, but
But
every
we
time,
might like it. It
but
might
every
surprise
time I
us.
watch a western, my thought is always, I gotta watch more westerns.
Mm.
That's always my feeling.
Mine is never like that. I never have that thought, but I don't watch many westerns.
Like
so.
I've seen some of the early Clint Eastwood ones, Fistful of Dollars.
I like Clint Eastwood.
But the young stuff, like I have upstairs on Blu-ray, I have like Fistful of Dollars, Good, Bad, and the Ugly, that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never compelled to watch it, but when I've watched those,
You've enjoyed it.
I've really enjoyed them.
Yeah.
So
We'll do it. We'll see how we feel after. I mean, it must have been great.
we'll see.
We'll
It could have
see.
just been, the Academy was throwing a bone to Clint
Okay.
Eastwood. But yeah, so I'll let you go first. What was one of your? We go back and forth. We each
Okay.
share one. Since I went first before, so you're basically
Um,
saying a movie we have to watch.
Yeah, I'm going to say it.
I'm
You're
ready.
going to hate it.
Well, I know the list. I'm already mentally prepared for any of the movies on the list.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I love this movie.
And
This
you
is a
think
movie
it's
that.
going to be better than Unforgiven.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's a totally different kind of movie.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
But do I think I'm going to like it better than Unforgiven? Sure.
But again, we're trying to say this is a better movie than Unforgiven. Because I'll be full disclosure, right? From one of my picks, David Lynch's Fire Walk with Me, Twin Peaks is
Yeah.
on the list.
Yeah.
Came out this year. That's not on my list because I'm like, that's not going to be better than. That's not going to be a potential contender to knock Unforgiven off its thing. Though I think it's a better film. Sure.
Do you think you know what I'm going to pick?
No. But I'm saying, I'm explaining, we've never talked about this. Though something like a David Lynch Twin Peaks movie would be perfect
Do I think
for
this
me.
could win the Academy Award? No.
Would this be perfect for me? I'm saying that's kind of our thing. Like, what's the general film off that list that we think would be better than this thing that most people would agree with it?
All right. I don't think this movie is that.
I'm just saying we've talked about like
All
adjusting.
right. So I'm
the
not going to
thing.
say that one yet. I'm going to go with my next one. Okay? For
Okay.
now. And I'm going to think about the other one.
Yeah, because I'm saying I didn't put Twin Peaks, and there's another one I really liked called Light Sleeper.
Mm-hmm.
Really liked it a lot. It's on Willem Dafoe. But I knew, I'm like, that's not the type of movie that we're looking. That's a personal fave. That's a niche favorite, and I don't think that's enough to the thing.
Okay. So I'm
Just
going to go with the other.
thinking. Yeah.
For right now, I'm going to say A Few Good Men.
Okay.
I love that movie.
Tom Cruise,
Kevin Bacon,
Kevin Bacon,
Demi Moore,
Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson. Yep.
Is this the You Can't Handle the Truth?
You Can't Handle the Truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love that movie.
I've seen it, but I haven't seen it since the era. Like
So
someone rented it, like an adult rented it, watched it because it was on.
I think it's a strong movie. I like it.
I'm excited to see it.
I want to see it again. And I think it has a lot of good
I know there were
actors in
two
it.
Tom Cruise movies released that year.
And I don't even love Tom Cruise, but I loved that movie. I did.
Did you see the second one on the list?
Yeah,
Far
it
and
was.
Away.
Yeah.
Nicole Kidman, Tom
Nicole
Cruise.
Kidman, Tom Cruise.
I remember seeing Far and Away back in the day.
Yeah,
when it
I
came
saw
out
that one.
as a family rental. Yeah, it didn't get picked though.
So that's my first pick.
That's a good pick.
Thanks.
A Few Good Men. See, that's the kind of movie that could knock Unforgiven off its thing. That
It
people
could.
would agree to you've put to a test.
Yeah, it could.
All right. In that same logic, thinking of important films, I don't think it's his best film, but it's something I haven't seen in ages. I've been wanting to return to. Push the movie genre forward. Quentin Tarantino's
I knew that.
Reservoir Dogs.
So that was on my list of one I don't think I've seen, but I know it's supposed to be a super good movie.
Yeah. There were two on there that I think kind of
I wrote it on my card.
define the era. It's
Yeah.
Reservoir Dogs, Quentin Tarantino,
So I'm excited to see that.
and Robert Rodriguez's El Mariachi
Mhm.
is on the list, which is in Spanish. It stars Antonio Banderas. And it's but it's another one of those violent gun movies that like Reservoir Dogs is.
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, so it's just,
Yeah.
I've seen Reservoir Dogs many times, but I haven't seen it in over 20-something years. So it'll be interesting to see it now.
Yeah.
And it's been since, I haven't seen it. Yeah, I definitely haven't seen it in over 20 years.
So now I'm for my next one. I don't know because my number one pick. I know it's not better than Unforgiven, even though I've never seen it, because just the genre of movie, it's not going to win an Academy Award.
Well, these don't have to be Academy Award worthy, but I
it
do
is
feel
probably it was my favorite movie of 1992.
we're trying to say, hey, Academy, here's some other things.
No.
So I'll give you a little more time to think. Here's what I'm picking for my
Although
number two.
I think it was really culturally significant at the time, but no, would it even come close to being better than A Few Good Men or? Give me a little time. You go.
My number two pick is controversial,
Okay.
but I feel we have to revisit it.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever seen it, though I know everything about this film.
I know what you're going to say, so I'm glad you went.
Okay. Because I'm like, hey, if we're looking at films that
Because I
are
had this one written down
important
too.
films from 92,
Mhm.
how can this not be part of the conversation?
Okay.
Especially and watching it under today's lens,
Mhm.
it's going to be telling.
Okay.
Neil Jordan's The
Oh,
Crying Game.
No. Oh, I looked at that one. No, that's not what I had written down, but yeah, okay.
I've never seen it, but I know enough
I think
about
I've
it.
seen it because I revisited it when I was looking at the list,
Mm-hmm.
and I almost wrote it down, but I couldn't remember it enough to like write it down.
I'm not going to talk about what I know. The marketing campaign was about the twist, but that's also part of what has potentially hurt the film longevity-wise. But I think you have to lump that into the marketing and not the artistic intent of the movie. So The Crying Game. So I'm going to go with The Crying Game, one I haven't even seen before.
Okay, I don't really know what to pick for the
So we
next
got
one.
Reservoir Dogs, A Few Good Men, The Crying Game, and
So I'm just
Unforgiven.
gonna say what my number one favorite film was, but I'm not picking it.
Well, let's see. We can evaluate it.
My number one
the spot.
favorite film was White Men Can't Jump.
Okay, I think.
I love
No,
that
listen,
movie.
I will make the argument.
more than anything.
I will make the argument that if
But
you
I
want
have
to
some
leave
backups.
it in, Woody
I have some
Harrelson,
backups.
Wesley Snipes.
I love that movie.
It
It literally is a movie that sticks in my mind even
Leave it on.
now,
It was
30
a pop.
years
It was
later.
a pop cultural phenomenon of the time.
Rosie Perez.
Yeah, Rosie
Yeah.
Perez. I say leave it on. It was a cultural thing at the
Okay.
time.
I'm
No,
gonna
I
leave
thought.
it on. That was my number
No,
one
I
pick.
think that's not niche like Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me is niche. Light Sleeper, the other film I wanted to put in there, which I love to death. I listed Light Sleeper as I'd seen it for the first time 3 years ago, and it was my favorite film that year that I saw.
Okay.
So I keep track on the letterbox, like what I like. That was the best film I saw that year, in my opinion. So
my other backups were Basic Instinct and Patriot Games.
I'm glad.
But
Patriot,
we just saw Basic Instinct.
yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad Patriot Games didn't make it on the list.
Well, that was low, but it's Harrison
I'm surprised.
Ford.
I'm surprised. Like Son of a Woman.
Well, I I like that,
Because
but
you go for Pacino.
I do like Pacino, and I liked that movie.
And we could have finally done that.
I do have to say, in that whole entire list, White Men Can't Jump just jumped out of me, and I'm like, this is my favorite movie. Of
No, I think
1992.
that's a definitely appropriate pick.
Yeah.
It's not a niche pick. Like,
Okay.
it's not niche like some of the other ones I was mentioning.
And I'm excited to watch it again, too.
And you weren't doing like, you know, I mean, even movies like Single White Female were kind of a phenomenon at the time.
And Singles. But we already
Well, Singles
podcasted
we already
on
talked
Singles.
about. I don't think
but
Singles is.
it's not a Oscar.
And these don't, I guess, have to be Oscar contenders. We just think, hey, they're somehow more relevant today than they were.
Yeah. I mean,
They
I
don't need to
did
be
love
framed.
Single White Female. Who's in that? Bridget Fonda.
I want to say it's Bridget Fonda.
Bridget
I
Fonda.
want to say that, but
I love that movie, but it wasn't like
you know, my other,
that significant to me.
though Light Sleeper and Twin Peaks were not contenders, they were just personal faves. I was considering adding The Last of the Mohicans.
I saw that. I
on the
don't
list.
know that I ever saw that movie.
I definitely saw it. I just didn't know. I think it's long. I think it's like 3 hours.
Ooh.
I felt like we'd already seen kind of Dances with Wolves recently.
That's
I
the
felt
thing.
with Unforgiven, we're in that same sort of Western
So
genre.
I think we have a good mix.
Yeah, they don't have to be heavy, serious movies. They don't have to be intense
that's
dramas.
What I'm saying. I think we have a good mix. So here's what we have,
All
right?
Yep, here's what we're watching. And everybody else can watch, and it'll take us about 2 months to get there.
True. We have Unforgiven.
Yep.
We have A Few Good Men.
Can't handle the truth.
White Men Can't Jump.
I don't know a line from that movie.
And yours are
Reservoir Dogs.
Reservoir Dogs
Mr. Pink. And The Crying Game.
and The Crying Game. This is a good list.
Yeah.
I'm excited to listen or
I can't wait to
listen to
hear our
them.
podcast about it.
Huh?
I was saying a joke. Can't wait to hear our podcast about it.
I can't wait to watch them again. Actually.
Yeah. But you haven't seen The Crying Game to your knowledge or
I don't
Reservoir
think,
Dogs.
No, I don't think so.
And
And you haven't seen White Men Can't Jump?
I've seen them and A Few Good Men, but they're not films I've, like, in my adult life have watched.
Okay.
You know, like you see things in your younger teenage years that are kind of just in your
I've
peripheral.
definitely
They're in
seen
your
White Men
peripheral, but
Can't
you
Jump
haven't,
a
like, sat down
few times. It was one of those
and
movies
Unforgiven,
that
I think we
watched a
both have
lot.
said, hey, we haven't seen this movie.
Yeah, no. Definitely not.
I mean, if we had, wasn't paying attention.
Right.
Okay.
That'll be good. I'm excited about that.
1992.
It'll be like October when we come out with this episode.
It might be September. I know it's August
End of
now.
September.
I feel it might be into September. It could be early October. You're right.
What's happening?
And now we have a car slowly pulling in front of the house.
Slowly pulling up in front of
That's
our
what happens
house.
when you porch cast. Could be an Uber looking for a house.
True.
Like an Uber Eats.
Anyway,
okay. Our next
that was
episode,
fun.
we'll probably be back out in the wild
And
somewhere.
I don't think I got bit by one mosquito tonight.
Oh, we got the
Citronellas.
candles
Got the
going.
candles. Got the music.
Mhm.
Got the vibe.
Yeah.
All right.
Right, bye. Is that how we do it?
Is that every episode you have to come up with a different way to say bye?
No, it's just at some point you just say bye. It
You're
is.
right.
It is.
It
Uber
was
Eats.
Uber Eats. Good call.
I know.
I like how he just like puts his hazards on and parks in the middle of the road.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun. All right. Well, that was fun. And until next time, we'll probably be somewhere next time.
Here, we haven't cheers lately. That's how it ends. I think we just
cheers. Oh,
forgot.
man.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.